The new week is here, and with it comes a new episode of Pixel Peak.
There's a lot of news for games and game developers, so let's get right into it.
Microsoft Flight Simulator has added a new map update, which includes the wildfires on the West Coast.
Among Us has been getting some attention on social media.
Meanwhile, the Apple vs. Epic Games lawsuit continues, and things are heating up.
And lastly, some game announcements for Riders Republic, Scott Pilgrim, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, and Star Wars Squadrons.
Afterwards, we'll hear from our special guest Xbox Analyst Bobby Padgett.
And we'll hear from our game reviewer Elizabeth about the Star Wars DLC for Sims 4.
With so much news to go over, we'll go ahead and start. I'm Bryce Gates.
And I'm Kristen Lawrence, and we hope you enjoy your stay here on Pixel Peak.
Flight Simulator is an immersive game recently released by Microsoft, which attempts to replicate the real world and the art of flying as accurately as it can. Currently, the game has 20 planes to choose from and a huge world to explore. There are over 1 billion entities sprawled around the world, ranging from trees to airports that you can land in. The game also implements both traffic in the air and realistic checklists to get yourself immersed in flying. As a recent stride, the game has added a day-night cycle and a real-time weather system. This system went so far to add a Category 4 Hurricane Laura, which made landfall in the southern United States at the end of August. More recently, Flight Simulator has also added in smoke clouds on the West Coast for the current wildfires. The states of California, Oregon, and Washington have lost millions of acres to the spreading wildfires. In addition, tens of thousands of people have been forced to relocate out of danger, with these tragic events transpiring. It was surprising to find that the Flight Simulator has recreated smoke from the fires. The game does not render the world in real time. It instead creates a map for players to fly around in, which it updates from various data services. While the game doesn't replicate the same red tin skies that are present on the West Coast, there are smoke clouds which nearly block the view of their ground completely. The wildfires added into the game allows players to see the truly massive scale of areas being affected, as you can fly through these smoke clouds at full speed for miles.
The 2-year-old video game Among Us has taken off during 2020, and one of the biggest ways you'll see it is on social media through memes. There are basically memes for everything nowadays, so you'll need a little bit of context to get this emergency meeting meme for Among Us. Among Us is pretty similar to the game Mafia. You're part of a crew working on a space station, and in your group there is an imposter who is working to sabotage the station and kill the crew. And in the game, you can have a meeting to vote on who you think the imposter is when a dead body is found. But another way to force one of these meetings is hitting the emergency button when you see the imposter in the act. When the emergency button is pressed, you know things are getting serious. It is the time for accusations and defenses. Innocent players get framed or crewmates close in on a suspicious player. However, the emergency button isn't always pressed for the right reasons. Some players have used it just to get attention within the game, or if they're streaming, they've used it to captivate the attention of the audience. Apparently, sometimes the emergency button is pressed, and a player uses it to ask the crew what their favorite pizza is. Now, there are memes out there specifically about the emergency meeting within the game, but it's now becoming an abstract tag that people will put on just about anything. Still, despite the weird memes and the occasional misuse of the emergency button, the game is getting some good traction and is becoming another way for friends and family to play together during these times of distance.
Apple vs. Epic's lawsuit, which began in August, is still continuing. For those who are unfamiliar with the antitrust lawsuit that Epic has put against Apple, here is a quick recap. The App Store and Google Play Store takes a 30% cut of purchases processed through their stores, which covered app prices, subscriptions, and in-app purchases. As for Fortnite, primarily makes revenue through selling their in-app V-Bucks, Epic decided to add an alternate payment method on iOS and Android, which would circumvent the 30% that the app stores commissioned. After this, Apple and Google removed Fortnite from their respective stores, and Fortnite launched pre-prepared antitrust lawsuits. Now onto recent events. Apple has started a counter lawsuit against Epic. In this suit, Apple states that Epic's actions are illegal, as Epic was contractually obligated to pay Apple their cut. They also released a 67-page response to Epic's lawsuit in which they state that Epic is not a Robin Hood, and they themselves are a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Furthermore, they released a statement that Epic has made over $600 million through the App Store, and that Epic only wants special treatment for their own company. As for news from Epic Games themselves, they have released a statement that accounts registered with Apple IDs will no longer be available to access Fortnite after September 11th. They give instructions on how to register current accounts with emails and also provide an account recovery option for those who do not update their account prior to the date. This is all the news we have on the story for now, but the next court date takes place on September 28th, and we promise to keep you in the loop.
This week was a bit slow on game news, but there have been a good number of game announcements. Ubisoft has announced a new extreme sports game to launch on February 25th, 2021. The game is called Riders Republic, a massive multiplayer that will be set in some of the United States national parks. The game is said to be a mashup of the company's Trails and Steeps franchise and will be available on launch day via Google Stadia, PS4, PS5, Windows PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. In the trailer, viewers were shown different extreme sports they could play, from wingsuiting, mountain biking, snowboarding, and much more. The game has been described as an extreme sports fantasy land by Ubisoft fantasy designer Manfred Neber. With the game's release, Ubisoft states that Riders Republic will feature PvP races with more than 50 competitors. The race courses going through some of the US's most well-known parks, like Bryce Canyon, Yosemite Valley, Canyonlands, and Zion, to name a few. Aside from the huge free-for-all races, there will be 6-on-6 team events found within the game as well. There will be an online leaderboard challenge and a progression system with bling, gear, and other rewards for the athletes. Ubisoft has said that this game will be an experience for any kind of player. In 2010, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World was released in theaters, and 6 years ago, Ubisoft released Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game. Now, 10 years after the movie release, the game is making a comeback this holiday season. The game will be released onto Google Stadia, Nintendo Switch, PS4, Windows PC, and Xbox One. However, there is no confirmation on if there will be a physical release. The return of this game surprised many people, including Brian Lee O'Malley, the creator of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. The upcoming anniversary may rekindle some nostalgia for the cult classic, driving up its sales. Some fans have complained in the past about wanting the game to be available again, and now they got their wish. Next up is another video game remake. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time is coming back in January 2021. This video game will be available on PlayStation 4, Windows PC, and Xbox One. Anu Cole, senior producer with Ubisoft Poon, the Indian-based studio in charge of the remake, has said that this is a dream come true. They have said people still have nostalgic feelings for the game and want to play it. It'll still have the original characters, and they'll be adding a bit more flavor and enhancement. The trailer showed the players can unlock the original Prince of Persia from 1992 within the remake, with more surprises included. The last game for the Prince of Persia franchise was released back in 2008, and its popularity began to decline with the rise of Assassin's Creed. Those working on the game are excited to bring this franchise back to life with this remake. And finally, an update for Star Wars Squadrons. It has been announced that the PC would support HOTAS controls. HOTAS is a shorthand term for a controller that allows the player to keep both hands on the throttle and stick. For gaming context, it would allow the player more precise control of any ship they were flying in the game. HOTAS controls aren't uncommon for PC games, but it's rare to find them for controllers. With this announcement, it should even the playing field for both PC and console players. Star Wars Squadrons is set to be released October 2nd on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC.
Have you ever wanted to experience the world of Star Wars yourself? Well, now you can, with the help of The Sims 4. Views of this expansion pack have been negative from when it was first introduced by EA, but let's jump into the pack to see what it has to offer for ourselves. Being completely honest, I never was the biggest Star Wars fan growing up, but I still enjoyed watching them as a kid. So when I heard that The Sims 4 was making a Star Wars themed expansion pack, I was willing to give it a shot. Before you can get into the actual expansion, however, you need to have the base game, which is around $40, and then the expansion is currently sitting at $20. After that, once loading up the game, you can either use a previously made character, if you already had the game, or create a new one. Most packs, whether it be game, stuff, or expansion, it comes with new clothes and building options for you to use. When creating a new sim, we can see the new clothes that come with the pack, and they are Star Wars themed. Something new to The Sims, at least with the last couple of packs we've gotten, is being locked out of outfits until you gain the experience to wear them. But the ones you do get to wear are still pretty cool. Once getting your house or plot of land, we can get into the new building options that come with the pack. Most of what comes with this pack are comfort items such as chairs, tables, etc., lights, and decorations. Oh, and a TIE fighter, which I was very excited for, to see the possibility of a vehicle, which the lack of a vehicle has plagued the game since it came out. But alas, I was disappointed. Right off the bat, I will say that the world itself really isn't that expansive compared to packs like City Living, but what we do get is pretty interesting. The Black Spire Outpost, where you spend the beginning of this pack, was pretty interesting, and I liked the robot DJ that played music in the bar. The music for this pack was Star Wars themed, and I feel they did a really good job of making the music seem like it would fit into the Star Wars world without straight up copying the music from the movies. I found myself spending way too much time watching my sim dance to the DJ and jamming out to the game's version of Cantina. The plot for this expansion is to do quests for either the Resistance, First Order, and/or Scoundrels. You actually have the option to work for all three. However, if you decide to work for the Resistance, you will negatively affect your standing with the First Order and vice versa. However, if you work for the Scoundrels, it doesn't really seem to affect your standing with the other two factions. As for the quests themselves, I found that they were a bit repetitive, and normally games give you a tutorial on how to actually, play the game and find things, but this one doesn't. It kind of just threw you into the game, and unless you know Star Wars stuff ahead of time, you will spend way too much time trying to figure out where things are, which is what I ended up having to do. Overall, I would give the game a rating of good, for even though it doesn't have the most interesting plot or gameplay, it does have interesting music, clothing, and lightsaber fights.
Hello, Bobby. Thank you so much for being here today. You might remember Bobby from last season of Pixel Peak, who starred as our Xbox analyst at the time. How are you doing?
Well, COVID's got me a little downhearted, but I'm always happy to be here on Pixel Peak.
I think we can all relate. So let's get right into it. The details of the Xbox Series X and Series S have been revealed, and the systems are set to release November 10th. What may a fan be most excited for from the list of specs from these new consoles?
So the biggest thing longtime Xbox fans are probably going to be the most excited about is the fact that the Series X and the Series S have this amazingly robust backwards compatibility. Basically, any game you could play on the Xbox One, One X, or One S, you can play on the Series X and Series S. So that's Xbox One games, any compatible 360 games, and compatible Xbox original games, like, for me, Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2.
Well, that sounds fun. How does the design of these consoles compare to past Xbox models?
So, one of the big things is that these are kind of designed to be stood up more vertically, at least the Series X is. It's actually, and Microsoft even kind of tweeted a picture about this, but it is essentially designed like a refrigerator. It's got these giant cooling vents on the top. It's got a stand underneath. It's designed to be set up vertical, and that's what cools the AMD processors and the GPU. And now with the Series S, you can lay it horizontally or vertically. I mean, you can do that with both of them, but the Series S, it's like the logo actually looks like it's made to be held horizontal. And it's the smallest Xbox, according to Microsoft, the smallest Xbox ever made. And I can believe that, considering that there was a point where CEO or head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, actually was giving a conference and had a Series S tucked away on one of his shelves that nobody noticed.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's neat. There's going to be a $200 difference between the new consoles, though. What should buyers know before dishing out the extra money?
So the things that buyers should know is that the Series S is obviously going to be it's going to be $200 cheaper because there is no disk drive. It only has 512 gigabytes of onboard storage instead of 1 terabyte. It only has 4 teraflops of graphic processing power instead of the 12 that the Series X has. And unlike the X, which can do up to 8K, up to 120 frames per second, but natively runs at 4K and 60, the Series S natively runs at 1440, which is that pseudo 4K you usually get on a lot of smartphones, and it maxes out at 60 frames per second.
Wow, that's pretty important to know.
Mm-hmm.
With the Series X S lacking a disk drive and being equipped with just 512 gigabytes of storage, how do you think that will hold up?
Well, the big thing is both consoles do have extendable storage. Seagate has worked with Xbox to make specifically a little chip that you can put in that is a terabyte, and it runs natively as if you were buying like a brand new internal SSD. But given the fact that my Xbox One's external hard drive is, I believe it's 1, maybe 2 terabytes already, and I've pretty much filled that thing up, I don't think that storage is not going to last very long if you play a lot of games and like to keep them all stored, especially I know with the Series X, I'm pretty sure it's going to be like the original Xbox ones where you put a disc game in and it has to download. And if the Series X games are going to be bigger, then I don't think the storage will last much longer. It's going to need to have a lot more extendable storage, maybe at least 2 terabytes. But given the fact that it is $200 cheaper, and if your setup doesn't include a 4K TV, I'd say it's not a bad idea to go for that $300 console, especially if you're not running, you don't have any need for 4K, you are low on a budget, and you're just maybe trading in your Xbox One console.
That sounds about right. But has Microsoft made any changes to the way the Game Passes work?
Nope, Game Pass is actually supposed to work about the same. The only difference is if you have Game Pass Ultimate, and this I think also goes for Xbox Ones as well, but Microsoft is now bundling EA Play with Game Pass Ultimate, which was the Gold plus Game Pass. But other than that, Game Pass is going to work the exact same because, like I said before, all the Xbox One playable games will be playable on Series X.
Well, that's good to hear. What exclusives can we expect from this new console launch?
So this is probably the one area I feel that Microsoft is definitely lacking in. Even though Microsoft says it's not really their goal to have launch exclusives, they have plenty coming down the pipeline between the new Fable and Halo Infinite, but their main thing is building a robust, technically advanced console that can play all of your games that you have right now.
All right, well, thank you, Bobby, for coming back to having a chat with us. We
Thank you.
appreciate it and wish you luck in your future endeavors. That's our analyst segment for this week. Reminder that we are currently looking for an Xbox analyst and a new PlayStation analyst, since we still aren't sure where Bianca is. So if you or someone you may know is interested, please contact us on our social media.
That's another episode in the books. Hopefully we'll hear from Bianca sometime soon. I'm starting to get worried.
Me too. I guess we'll have to wait until next week to hear back from her.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll continue to release new episodes every Monday at 12 p.m. in tons of places. You can catch us online at watchapptv.com or on local television through SkyBest Channels 20 and 1020, Spectrum Channel 198, or on our campus television channel 23.3.
Make sure to get notified on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at PixelPeakAppTV with more gaming thoughts, news, and reviews.
And as always, this episode wouldn't have been possible without everybody behind the scenes. Thanks to our writers, Rebecca Larson and Josh Beal, special guest Xbox analyst Bobby Padgett, game reviewer Elizabeth Dodson, and producers Nicholas Corbin, Elise Taylor, Jacob Barber, Haley Cipher.
Thank you so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed your stay here on Pixel Peak.